All right. What's up, y'all? This is the Wednesday virtual training call. Hope everybody's doing good. Hopefully, daylight savings has been good to you so far. It's March 13th. It was just this past Sunday. For me, my kids don't like to sleep, and so I self-medicate with all kinds of coffee. So we got our first question on here, and we'll go through a little bit of content today. Again, we're going to be keeping these calls at about 30 minutes. First question on here is just I'm going virtual. I was excited to get leads, but I don't see many or any Ethos leads at all. So I wanted to ask what would be the next best option when it comes to internet leads. I think that's a great question. Here's the truth of it is with as you're virtual and this will really be the case. I would say pretty much from here on out. Most I would look at picking up some extra states. Look at I know where you're at, so I would look at California, Nevada, Texas, Colorado, Arizona. I would get your license in those states. That way, if you find yourself in a situation where there's not a whole lot of leads in a certain area, then you could just scoop those up in a different state. There's also some different lead vendors that we're working on testing. We're kind of vetting through some different leads. We had some that a lot of us that were virtual were using. We had some of them that they just stopped selling leads. They got out of the lead business. There have been some recent rule changes with just leads in general. And so some of these people got out of the business. And quite frankly, a couple of the top vendors that we really liked got out of the business. And so then we kind of transitioned over to Ethos leads through Integrity. And then now we're kind of vetting through, some other lead types. And so I know it's not necessarily the answer that you want, but I would pick up some extra states. And then I would also keep looking on there. Like I would look every day on those Ethos leads because they get repopulated every day. So that's what I would do there. And today, you guys, we're going to be talking about we're still kind of going through last week. If you're on, we talked about that first call. If you want the recording, reach out to me, reach out to Benet. We can get you added to the virtual course. We have an entire virtual course that we're building on and adding to. But the call recordings are in the virtual course. Okay, they're at the very end. So you can go through, watch those recordings from 2 weeks ago, last week, and then this week we'll get it up as well. But today we're going to be talking about call the initial call if they already have life insurance coverage. Okay, so the way that I want you guys to start thinking about this as far as selling over the phone, especially, it's like this in person too. But people aren't buying a product. People are not buying, oh my gosh, Mutual of Omaha and they have living benefits. Take my money. Nobody's buying a product. Okay. Like, in the end, are they buying like an insurance product? Yes. But people aren't buying a product. That's not why they buy, is because of the product or because of the company, or because of the features of some life insurance policy out there. People are buying a solution to a problem. Okay, so if you are taking notes on here, that's the first thing I would write down. And I would just get this in your head as much as you humanly possibly can. People are not buying a product, they are buying a solution to a problem. And especially over the phone, you just need to be aware of that. And you need to ask yourself, on how many of these calls that I'm doing, am I helping somebody solve a problem? Okay. Because they're not buying a product, they're buying a solution to a problem. So that kind of brings us to, on the first call. And if you were on there last week, then, lots of times when you start talking with people and you're doing these virtual calls, and you're selling, the problem is for a lot of folks, the problem is that they don't have life insurance and their family is screwed if they die. Like, and that's a major problem. And you want to get really, really, really good at through asking questions. Okay, like we talked about last week, going through the why, like why did they fill this out? What was the motivation behind it? You want to get really good through asking questions to help kind of put a mirror up so that way you understand what the problem is, but also and really more importantly, the client understands the severity of the problem. So when you're doing these first calls, a lot of times that's going to be the issue. Like, hey, I have a client from last week that guy's a truck driver, works for months at a time. His wife stays home with the kids, and he's basically like, his problem, the reason that he bought life insurance, the reason that he's willing to spend $363 a month or whatever it costs him on his life insurance to get a high face amount, bunch of coverage. Is his problem is if something happens to him while he's on the road, okay, driving, to bring an income for his family. He's a truck driver, is gone for months at a time. If something happens to him, his family is screwed, and his family is super screwed. Okay, like, and when I made that phone call, I did a good job of like highlighting that, and not me telling them like, oh man, if you die, your family's screwed. It's from asking questions. Man, so what has you motivated to reach out for life insurance? Oh well, I just wanted to make sure, if something happens to me, my wife and kids are taken care of. Okay, cool. So do you currently have any coverage? No, I don't have anything. Okay, great. Let me ask you this, Rob, if something did happen, like if you did get into an accident on the road, you're coming down one of those mountain passes, and things don't go right. What does it look like for Melinda? Well, she doesn't work. She stays home with the kids. The house will go into foreclosure, and like he starts telling me this stuff, and I'm listening and I'm asking him the questions. So a lot of times like, and David just hopped on here. David, what I'm talking about here is people aren't buying a product; they are buying a solution to a problem. And we a lot of times the problem when we're talking with people is that they don't have life insurance, or family is screwed, and you need to get really good at asking questions to help show the client that, like, hey, this is a problem, or just bring the problem up to the surface a little bit more. Okay, like it's in their consciousness. They filled out a form for life insurance. They know it's a problem, but like, what are the specifics of the problem? It just makes it a whole lot more real, and that kind of leads us to a lot of the other times that we're talking with people. Sometimes their problem isn't that they don't have life insurance and their family is up a creek without a paddle. All right. Sometimes the problem is they've got life insurance already, and that life insurance sucks for about one out of 1,000 different reasons. Okay, that their life insurance could suck. Like, odds are good one of those reasons it sucks. So like, how do we handle? And really, the purpose of this call on here is, how do we handle when they've already got a life insurance policy? How do we handle that? Like, if that ends up being the problem, like, again, people aren't buying a product; they're buying a solution to the problem. Okay, or to a problem. Well, maybe the problem isn't that they don't have life insurance. The problem is they do have life insurance, and the life insurance sucks.
Right. Well, good morning, Nick. Good morning, everybody. I apologize, ran a couple minutes late here, coming back from a Bible study. But yeah, so I caught the tail end of what you were saying there, Nick. And, I think this is a good way to start this part of the call of like figuring out how to help people that already have insurance, because that was a good point you were making. Like, stereotypically, what most of us think, I know I did in the beginning, the ideal client I'm looking for is the person I get on, they have no life insurance, and now I'm going to get this big, deep why of all the reasons things are going to go wrong if they don't take care of it right now. Or our ideal clients, they already understand all these big, deep reasons. They don't have anything, and it's just this layup sale of, awesome, now I get to get you that. And that's true, Nick, to a certain extent. Like, I do like talking to those people, but Nick really helped me realize through my first year, even more than that, your ideal client is the person who already has coverage. Because like in the beginning, I'd start talking, and if you do throw out the, so do you have any sort of other financial protection or like any other life insurance? And when they say yes, like in the beginning, my heart would sink, like, crap, like there goes my sale of, now I, it's not the, oh my goodness, we just, had to, have a funeral for Aunt Susie, and the GoFundMe went around and it sucked, and I know I need it, and get it for me. Like that's what I was always hoping for in the beginning. Where I've come around, and Nick helped me a lot on this, hopefully after this call, if you are in that position, this will help you too, is the ideal client I like now is someone who already has coverage, because they already value paying for life insurance. So the ones that don't have life insurance, and they just watched the, family member do the GoFundMe at the funeral, and now they know they need some final expense coverage. Well, that's great. Then when you get to the price of paying 50 or 100 or 200 or $300 a month, they may not value that. Like, emotionally, they realize they need something now. But I had found sometimes the negative to that is that for whatever reason, they've never valued paying money monthly for life insurance up until now. Whereas the people you talk to that already have a policy, they value that already. So now we get to just go in and figure out, well, what are the negatives to the policy that they have, and what are the positives we can provide them, either for the same amount of money, or maybe get them more coverage, or get them, maybe save them some money, or improve their coverage XYZ reasons, and that's what we get to present them. So now we just allocate the funds they're already spending, and let's get them into a better position. And sometimes those end up being the easiest conversations. Oh, I think you're muted, Nick.
There we go. So what would you say, like, so somebody's new and they're starting to call through, whatever the leads are, okay, Ethos, something else, it doesn't matter. And they're starting to get a bunch of people that are like, oh, well, I already do, because last week I talked about, hey, you want to check these things off on call one, right? You want to get through the why, you want to find out, what's their plan B, you want to find out, what other options what other insurances they have, how long they've been shopping, you got to go through the health info, ask them the commitment question, and schedule call two. Like you want to knock all these things out. And of course, I said this last week, not every call is going to be perfect, but I see where a lot of new agents get tripped up where they're talking with someone, the person's like, well, I've already got, David, I've already got $500,000. I just wanted to add to it. Talk about like, what do you do differently than maybe an amateur, agent? Because, I learned a lot of this stuff from Hutch, like, for doing in-home, it's just, you're going to miss tons of premium if you kind of take them at their word with a lot of this stuff. So if someone's already got a policy, how do you handle that? How do you go through it? What questions do you ask them? And, I guess, how do you determine if that ends up being the problem rather than them just not having life insurance? Like, can we help them solve that? Because you are really, really good at that.
So much, and I learned all this from you, but so much of making the sales, just figuring out the details of what their policy is, because you're going to understand where the client's coming from. So yeah, the easy thing to do is, oh yeah, I already have this, $500,000 policy, and I just want to add another 250. Like the easy thing is, okay, let me go quote you out 250, and what's your health, and here we go. But where the real sale is to be made is, let's figure out what's going on with that 500, maybe even some reasons why they feel like they need more in the first place, and then how can we improve that, bundle it all together, and instead of making money off the 250, let's go get them a 750 policy, or a variety of reasons from that. So when you're going through, Nick, we can even just role play this afterwards a few different ways or something too if you want, but you're just trying to find out, okay, so what, do you have any other coverage? Throw out the softball. If they say something back, go, okay, that's great. Then the first thing I try to figure out is, who's the company with? Because a lot of times that'll tell you what's going on. If it's a Primerica term policy, for example, we know that can never turn into a permanent policy. Like they do not offer permanent coverage. There's no way to convert it. That's something I would know. Or if they tell me, that they have a Forester's term policy, I know if they're perfectly healthy, there probably is some things that get them a little bit better dollar for dollar coverage. So I would know, okay, maybe this is on the higher price side of things, or there's just a lot of things you'll learn as you're going through with these different term stuff. So I want to know what is the coverage that they have. I want to know how much coverage it is. I'd like to figure out roughly what they're paying on it a year. So the amount of coverage, the price, and the name of the company, no matter what kind of insurance it is, that's going to be really important to know. You got to at least start there. Then from there, what would be really helpful is knowing, well, about how many years ago did you get it? Because, if we're dealing with a term, for example, they might be used to, and this is what's going to uncover things like that same example that has 500,000. Well, if they got that 15 years ago, and ultimately we end up figuring out it's a 20-year term, well, they're thinking a price in their head that is completely unrealistic. So if they want to go add 250, and you just try to go in there and add the 250, well, your 250 might cost more than their 500 is costing. They're going to laugh you out of the room. You lost the whole sale. But if you figure out, okay, here's what's going on, here's how many years ago you got it. Oh, so were you aware that that was going up in price in a couple of years? Oh my gosh, no, I didn't know that. And like, okay, well, unless you pass away, so what sounded really good to them of, ooh, I have this 500,000 coverage for $100 a month. Well, now they realize, Oh, wow. So unless I die in the next 5 years, this policy is useless and I'm wasting $100 a month. So why don't we get you something that's, not going to go up in price in 5 years? Let's get you something to lock it back in for another 20 years. Well, now my policy, even if it's more money, makes way more sense because the likelihood of it paying out is way better. So like, you got to know the details of it. You can kind of go from there, Nick, or we can go back and forth on maybe some examples of it too.
Yeah, and here's what you guys will realize, like if you've been out in the field in person, you know this because you'll sit down with people and they've got 8 different life insurance policies and you're just like, oh, you got a bunch of junk going on here, and they've got 5,000 with this company, 2,000 with this company, or whatever. But the amateurs, what the amateurs do is what David said there is, oh, well, let's just add you another 250. Or if you're talking to a final expense client, okay, well, you just want another 10,000, you've already got 20,000, let's just add you another 10,000 to what you already have. You're missing out on literally thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars in premium every single year, probably over 100 grand in commissions, when you do that. So that's what the amateurs do. What you want to do is you want to just take the time, and it is extra time. Okay. Like, it's extra phone calls with the client. It's calling these stupid insurance companies to get their details, but it's worth it because what ends up happening, the guy's got 500,000. He thinks it's whole life, right? Or he thinks it's something permanent, or like there's about 1,000 different scenarios where what they think they have is not what they have, or what they think they have is what they have, but for one reason or another, what they have is not the best fit for them right now. So you just got to be willing to take that extra time and
Yes.
and call the insurance company with them and find out exactly what they have. And don't have that attitude of, oh, I'm just going to add coverage on top of what they have. Like, let's look at the whole picture. Let's do good on the client. And truthfully, if you call that insurance company, and let's say that they have 500,000, or the numbers don't really matter. Let's say they have a policy and you call the insurance company and that policy is good. You got to have the integrity to tell them, like, you need to keep that policy. Like, you need to keep that. Don't let anyone ever, get you out of that one. If it really truly is good. But then you also have the integrity on the other end of the thing. Like, if their policy sucks, you want to be able to tell them, like, hey, your policy sucks and here's why, right? And so for you, David, like, what do you go through? Like, let's say you're calling somebody and they're like, hey, I've got a policy with Colonial Penn and I've got $20,000 worth of coverage and I'm paying $28 a month. And you hear those numbers, and again, for all of you guys that are new, when you're new, you don't know what's what. Oh, okay, Colonial Penn, $20 a month, that sounds great. Like, you think that they have that, and you think that, oh, okay, crap, like maybe this isn't a sale because they've already got something. What would your next step be? Like, if I'm the client and I say, oh yeah, David, I got Colonial Penn, I got 20,000, I'm paying $23 a month.
Yeah, and so for those of you who don't know Colonial Penn, it's a 2-year wait. So it's at the worst pricing possible. They get it because people get them. They see a TV ad. So our grandma, is watching TV and a commercial comes on about getting insurance for $9.95 a month. Well, that client right there probably has $2,000, not 20,000. But you will realize, so you can feel this out. Even backing up one more, like, you start asking these questions. Well, what company do you have? Well, if they tell you, oh, geez, I don't even remember the name of it now. Or you ask them, well, how much coverage roughly do you have? Oh, I don't know. It was like 20,000 or 30,000, like whatever they guess, they always guess higher. Nobody undershoots their insurance. They all assume it's better than what they have. Well, how many years left do you have on that term? Oh, I don't know, like 10 or 15. Now it's like 2 or 3. But they always assume it's lasting longer. It's better than what they have. You don't tell them that, but just know this. But in some people, they know exactly what they have, and you can tell when you're asking. But when you're going through and either they're unsure or something's not adding up to you, now the next step is, let's take the extra time to call the insurance company. So, a soft, nice way to do that is just going through, and you want to point out things that could go wrong, or to share a story of something that could, maybe isn't going the right way. And you're just trying to, be helpful to them, just to double check. Like the phrase Nick had always tell me is, let's just double check to make sure there's no surprises. So you can share with them all the horror things that could go wrong. Like, oh, that's great. So So it sounds like you might have 20,000 for $20 a month. That would be an amazing price. And if you have that, Nick, I'm telling you right now, we don't ever want to change anything with that. But I have had some other clients where they had Colonial Penn, and it ended up actually like they thought they had 20,000, and they only had like 2 or 3,000 with how it works and the marketing of it and everything. Or like I've ran into some clients, they thought it was going to be good, their whole life, and all of a sudden the price was going up to where they couldn't afford it and they lost. Like I would just hate for there to be any surprise. Like, well, I certainly can help you with some extra coverage, but let's just make sure, because if it is what you think it is, maybe we don't even need to get you something else. But at the same time, like if you were my mom, if you were my dad, Nick, like I would just feel so horrible if we didn't take the extra time just to make sure there's no surprises. So, I call in with these companies all the time. Why don't we call in? And I know all the right questions asked, and we'll just verify to make sure it's exactly what it is. And again, I'll be the first to tell you if it's great. But if there is going to be some sort of surprise, I'd hate for you not to know that. Is that fair?
That was worth being on the call right there. You know what I mean? Because a lot, like just like that snippet right there is worth, being on here, and because that's what it is. That's the conversation. And you will find yourself having that conversation, kind of quite a bit, and it's great. You know what I mean? In fact, when I ever talk to somebody and they're like, "Well, I'm paying $300 a month and I got $500,000 in coverage," like I get excited because I know that I'm gonna tell them those things. Like, hey, we just got to make sure there's no surprises in there. Let's make sure that what you have is what you think it is. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying I'm doubting you or anything. Like, it's always better to hear it directly from the insurance company. Let's call them. Let's just make sure that there's no surprises in there. Because I've seen policies. I've seen policies that are universal policies, and like I had one client about a year ago that she was paying like $300 a month for this policy, and she was 73 years old, and this policy was running out, meaning no cash value, no life insurance, nothing in 3 years, and she had no idea. Okay, and she didn't believe me, and then we called the company, and I asked them all these questions. I'm asking them the questions. We've got a little questionnaire of what you can ask, to the insurance companies, but it ends up making you a whole lot more money, and it's a better service to the client. So don't be a jackwagon who just goes out there and adds the extra coverage. You want to take the time, and exactly what David said is you'll end up having that conversation a lot with clients.
Well, and let's act this out real quick, Nick. I know we only got a few minutes left, but I think this will be helpful just to hear in real time. So let's say now you're calling the insurance company. So Nick, you can be the guy who works for Colonial Penn, okay? Or you be the guy that works for Primerica, and I'm helping my client to be as Mallory, and I'm helping her call in because she has a Primerica term and she's really excited about what she had, and we're gonna double check it, kind of thing. Okay, so here's what it would look like. I'll call in. Nick's the customer service for Primerica, so answer the phone, Nick.
Primerica Financial Services, buy term, invest the rest. How can I help you?
Hi, my name's David. I'm a family representative for Mallory, and Mallory just had a couple questions on our policy. I was hoping you could help kind of look up everything and verify.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. Is Miss Mallory on the line?
Yeah, hey Mallory. So this is Nick from the Primerica's customer service. He's going to help us pull up your policy and just double check all the details. Then Nick verifies stuff with her. Blah blah blah. Do I have permission to speak with David on with David on the phone with you? Yes. And now I'm just going to go. Okay, great. So we think the policy, sir, is it's for 400,000. Is that correct?
So looking at this, yes, this is a $400,000 policy.
Okay. Is this like a term, or is it like a permanent whole life policy?
This is term.
This is term. Okay. And is she's paying $100 a month?
Yeah, the current premium is $126.28.
Gotcha. Okay. And then so was that good for like her whole life, or when would that something change with that, like in the price?
She got this is a 15-year term policy, and she got it 13 and a half, 13 years ago, and that premium, the 120 whatever I said, is good for another 2 years.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So it after 2 years here, so going into 2026, what would the premium go up to?
So let's see, in 2026, when her policy renews, the premium is going to go to $428.27.
And that's a year or a month?
That is per month.
Oh, so it would go up from 126 to $426 a month?
Correct.
Okay. And that's for the same coverage, the 400,000, not more coverage?
Yep. That's for 400,000.
So does it stay at that price
No,
for forever after that?
no, so the following year it goes up to $723.05.
Oh, wow. And that's a month still.
That's per month, correct?
Wow. And does it stay at the 700 after that, or what would happen then?
After that, it goes to 1127.
Oh, so it keeps going up each year like that.
Correct.
Mallory, were you aware of that, or do you have any questions with it? And see, by now Mallory's jumping in pissed off. Not what a month. And so what you do on the agent side of things, I like just to recap all that. Thanks, Nick. I know you like being a Primerica customer service agent. What you're trying to do is one. You could say you're an agent and stuff. I've ran into like where some companies they get really sketchy on the phone and goofy. So I like to just say I'm a family representative. So I call the customer service. I'll go Google Primerica customer service number, and I'm going to tell Mallory, my client, hey, I'm going to get them on the line. I'll do the holding and I'll get you back on the phone afterwards. Or you can have them sitting on their line the whole time too. But I'm calling and I'm the one leading the call. So once I finally click the right buttons and get through to and some of these companies, it can be in 30 seconds. Sometimes, you're stuck on a hold for 15 minutes or something. But again, it's worth taking the time to do this because now I get on the phone and I'm going to just, take control right away of, hi, my name's David. I'm a family representative for Mallory. And she just had a couple questions of the policy. Is it okay if I get her on the phone and you help us verify a couple things? I'm nice. I'm calm. I'm neutral. I get them on. I reintroduce Mallory. This is, Nick. I wrote the guy's name down when he told me what it was. This is Nick from Primerica's customer service. He was just going to verify a couple of things from you and then can help us answer our questions. They're always going to ask them, like their social or birthday or policy number or, address, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll ask, do I have permission to speak with, David on the line? Once they say yes, now I jump back in and I'm just redoing the same thing again. They might have told me, Mallory might have told me I have a $400,000 policy that's $126 a month and it's good for 15 years. But I'm still going to ask all those things and then I'm going to lead them to hear it from the horse's mouth. And then when you hear the goofy part that you're trying to figure out, like when is the price going up? And if you're ever looking into a term, ask them what the price is going to be when it goes up. So now Mallory went from thinking my policy's so great at my $100 a month when, she's going to have to realistically get a different term that's definitely more than that. Now it goes from that to, holy crap, this is only good for the next 2 years. And then it goes up to 400 and then 700 and then $1,100. This is insanity. I would never pay for that. But she heard it calmly for me. And I'm just pointing out and, like Nick likes to joke, hopefully this isn't too graphic, but you're just letting the insurance company hang themselves. They have to tell the truth of what's going on and let them point out how, no, that's not $400 a year. That's $400 a month. No, then it goes up to $700 a month. No, yeah, it keeps going up after that. Like you let them see that of what's going on with all that. Now they've heard it from you, from the insurance company, with me still being nice and neutral versus me going, no, your policy sucks. That's not going to work. Like you let them just see it for themselves, and it just becomes very obvious.
Yeah. And there's all sorts of different situations. Here's the main ones that you guys are going to run into as far as like, when is this applicable? First of all, like, when is this applicable? I would really say almost any time somebody's got a policy. Okay. Because you're not there with them like you might be in home to like look at their policy and see exactly what their policy is. So, like, if someone has another policy, like, we do want to make sure that it is what they think it is. And sometimes the client is extremely certain, like, hey, I have this. I really don't want to mess with that. Or my mom bought me this policy when I was in kindergarten and been paying on it for 100 years or whatever. Like, okay, fair enough. Like, you got, whatever. You're paying $25 a month for 25K with State Farm. Like, you should probably just keep that. So maybe in some of those situations, you don't take the extra time to call State Farm and verify. But I would say, like, no joke, like 90+% of the time, you really do want, like, if they've got other policies, we want to verify those other policies. And the most common ones that you're going to run into is they've got a guaranteed issue whole life. Like, there's a lot of people out there that they think they have day one coverage with whole life, but maybe they've got it recently and they've got a guaranteed issue whole life and they think it's day one coverage. Some agent didn't tell them it was a 2-year wait. Okay. And usually they're overpaying on those types of policies. So like Colonial Penn, There's a bunch of them out there, but they're overpaying on those types of policies. The other situation that you'll run into is someone got a crappy, what's the company? Oh darn it, why am I blanking on their name? They start with an L. It's the one that the lady it's not Liberty Bankers, it's I don't
Lincoln
know.
Heritage.
Lincoln Heritage. So Lincoln Heritage is extremely overpriced. Okay. But sometimes people bought a Lincoln Heritage policy 25 years ago, and it is cheap compared to what they can get now today. So that's a scenario that you're going to run into. And you just call and you ask all these questions. Hey, how long ago did they get this set up? What's the current cash value? What's the current death benefit? And what's crazy is even sometimes 10 years later, you can find them better options. So you'll run into, people have guaranteed issue whole life. People have old whole life that they got a really long time ago. You'll run into this with universal policies. If someone has a universal life policy, you need to call. Okay. You don't know what's happening in there. The client doesn't know what's happening in there. And odds are good the dang insurance company, like, you know what I mean? Like some of these policies set up, 30, 40 years ago, there's huge problems in a lot of these older universal life policies. Okay. So, like I talked to a guy one time that he had paid around, over the years since like 1980, he had a universal policy that he got in like 1985 or something, and he had put in like 75 grand on a universal policy where the death benefit was like 50,000, and so he paid more than the death benefit, and the policy was getting ready to lapse, and he didn't know. You know what I mean? So if it's universal life, you gotta call. Okay, if it's term, there's lots of situations where you got to call on term. Like how long ago was the term set up? How much is left on the term? What does the price go up to? So there's a lot of these different scenarios that you want to get good at, and you'll end up learning what are the right questions to ask, and how, if the problem is that they've got life insurance and their current life insurance sucks, let's hear it from that insurance company, not from us. Let's have the client, have the client hear from that insurance company that their coverage sucks. And so I hope that helps. And I know, like I said, we're doing our best to keep these at 30 minutes. Like, hey, let's just touch on something every single week. And I know a bunch of you guys have some questions. And so I'm down to kind of hang out on here for another couple minutes, answer more questions that you guys might have. David, if you got a roll, you absolutely can. Or if there's anything else you want to add, feel free, have at it, brother.
Perfect. Yeah. Just so again, all in all, make sure you know the company name and just try to get as much of this ammunition as you can because you're finding a reason it's bad. Okay. And again, depending on their age and everything else, but you're taking what they have and then just think in your head, well, what can I make of pointing out the negative to this and sell them the opposite. So if they have a term and it's overpriced, well, let's go get them the same term in a cheaper price. That obviously would be the negative of price. But maybe it's a cheaper one, but it's running out sooner. So now let's get it longer because this is useless to you if it doesn't last as long. Maybe they have term, but they're already getting close to retirement age. So now we're pitching, well, this, so what? Okay, yay, that sounds great. You got this. 500,000 for this $100 a month, but what's the plan when you're 73? And you point out like, well, what happens if you live till you're 74 and now you paid, $32,000 over the last 30 years, you don't get any of that money back and your family doesn't get any coverage if you pass away. Is that what you wanted? So you're pointing out, well, it's going to end. So that sucks. You should have had something permanent. Maybe they have something permanent and they're younger and it's like, well, did you have 100,000, like, it sounds like you need 5 or 6 or 700,000. Like, would it be more helpful if we just get that and then we come back to something permanent after your insurance needs go down? They have an IUL, but it's not funded properly, and you're showing how, oh my goodness, that one's going to crap out on you, so we need to put more money into it over here. You're finding all these reasons of, here's what they have, and let's show the reason why they need something different.
100%. And you'll have tons of those conversations that are term to perm or, term with better term or, better perm, or like, there's just all sorts of different scenarios. And, granted, we don't have time to go through all of them on here, but you will learn and you'll start to see, and you'll start to hear like, oh, I'm paying, $300 a month and I have this policy with AARP, and you start to know exactly like, oh my, okay, so you've got AARP. All right. Did they tell you that the price goes up every 5 years? Like you start to know all these other crappy companies out there, and it just makes it so it's just like it's kind of cake to walk the clients through it and pick up that extra premium. Again, like I said at the beginning, just remember, and this is true in person, it's true over the phone, people aren't buying the products. They're not buying Mutual of Omaha. They're not buying Transamerica. They're not buying any of that. They are buying a solution to a problem. Well, again, maybe the problem is they don't have life insurance, but maybe the problem, and a lot of times the problem is that they've got life insurance and that life insurance sucks. Okay. And they just don't know it sucks. They don't know why it sucks. So we call the company, we find out if it sucks. If it does, then we want the client to hear from the company. And what ends up happening is a lot of times you'll end up, replacing that old policy and getting them the additional coverage that they were looking for. And a lot of times you can bundle it all into one and get much bigger premiums by doing it that way. So hope this helps you guys. And again, I can hang out for a couple minutes and answer some more questions if you guys got them. But we're gonna keep doing this every single Wednesday, and just giving you guys. We want to give you guys just tons of training, tons of ammo, tons of content that you can start to go through. As far as just being more effective selling virtually. So that's what we got
and
for
Nick,
today.
we've talked about this before. You tell me if you want to do this next week or into a future week. But if some of you are willing, I think something that'd be really helpful. We could do it next week, or Nick, you make the final call on all this. I want to get several of us on, either for all of us. There's there's a bunch of people on here right now. Either we get several people that volunteer, we'll make them panelists with us, or if we even can convert this to kind of let everybody. I think one thing that'd be really helpful is, and we should start with the first 30 seconds, but we could also be doing these same examples of asking what they have, is if we, and you guys can let us know in the feedback here, over the next couple days too. Would it be, do you like the format? We'll do a lot of these like this, where we can pick a topic. But if you'd like the format of maybe several of us get on, and you get to just hear like, the half hour of role playing. So it's, first, Nick will be the client, the client I'm calling, and I'm the one that calls, and you just hear what the 30 seconds are. Nick throws one objection to me, and I need to handle it. And then you hear whether I sucked or I, was really good, doesn't even matter. You got to hear it. And then now I'll be the client, and Mallory goes next, and then Mallory's the client, and Nikki goes next, and then Gabri goes there, and like you can just hear it. And I've listened to a call like that before, and it was beneficial, both the people that sucked and the people that were good. The people that are good, you could see like, oh, it makes sense why they're having success. The people that suck, you could tell, oh, well, it's just as simple as like they don't have the script in front of them, or they hadn't even thought through what the objection is, because there's only like a couple objections you can get in the beginning. And so I think that'd be helpful. And we could do the same thing, obviously, with going through all these different scenarios and stuff too. But that's my thoughts, Nick, if maybe next week or the week after we want to do something like that.
Yeah, I say let's absolutely do that. And I would plan on, let's just plan on doing that next week. If everybody's good with that, give us some hearts or thumbs up or whatever in the little, with the reactions. There we go. Sweet. Yeah, so we'll do that next week. And anything that y'all need in the meantime, feel free to reach out. We've got the virtual Telegram chat. So, we're all in there. We're all, just sharing successes and what's working, what's not working. So if you're not a part of that, make sure you get added to that. And we'll see you guys again on here next week. Appreciate y'all.